The fluorescent lights in St. Mary's Hospital hummed with the kind of artificial brightness that makes everything feel both too real and completely surreal at the same time. I stood in the gift shop, staring at rows of teddy bears and Mylar balloons, trying to pick the perfect one. How do you choose a gift for a miracle? Anna, come on, David called from the elevator bank. They're waiting for us. I grabbed a blue bear with "It's a boy" stitched across its belly and a bouquet of sunflowers, Julia's favorite. My hands were shaking. 3 years. 3 years of watching my older sister go through hell. The injections, the hormones, the failed implantations, the miscarriages, the phone calls at 2 a.m. when she'd sobbed so hard she couldn't breathe. And now, finally, the baby was here. David took my hand as we rode the elevator to the maternity ward. His palm was sweaty. "You okay?" I asked. "Yeah, just. It's a big moment, you know, for them." He smiled, but something flickered across his face. Nervousness, maybe. I squeezed his hand. "They deserve this," I said. After everything, the door to room 314 was cracked open. I could hear Julia's laugh, that bright, exhausted sound of a woman who'd just won a war. I knocked softly. "Come in," Greg's voice boomed. The room was an explosion of life. Flowers covered every surface. Pink and blue balloons floated against the ceiling. The air smelled like baby powder, disinfectant, and something else, hope, maybe. That intangible thing that had been missing from my sister's eyes for so long. Julia was propped up in bed, her dark hair pulled back in a messy bun, her face glowing despite the exhaustion. Greg stood beside her, his arm around her shoulders, both of them staring at the clear bassinet next to the bed, like it contained the secrets of the universe. "Anna!" Julia's voice cracked with emotion. "David, come meet him. Come meet Ryan." Ryan. They'd picked the name months ago, back when they'd still thought this round of IVF might not work, back when hope was still a dangerous thing to hold on to too tightly. I moved to the bassinet, David's hand still in mine, and there he was. God, he was perfect. Tiny. So impossibly tiny. His little fists were curled up near his face, his mouth making small sucking motions even in sleep. He had a shock of dark hair and the most delicate features I'd ever seen. My throat tightened. "Julia, he's beautiful," I whispered. "He's absolutely perfect." 7 pounds, 3 ounces, Greg said, his voice thick with pride. "All 10 fingers, all 10 toes. The doctor said he's completely healthy." "Do you want to hold him?" Julia asked. "Can I? You're his aunt." "Of course you can." Greg carefully lifted the tiny bundle and placed him in my arms. Ryan made a small noise, his face scrunching up, but he didn't cry. He was warm and solid and real. And suddenly, I understood why Julia had fought so hard for this. Why she'd put her body through hell. Why she'd nearly bankrupted herself and Greg with treatments. This was worth it. He was worth everything. I looked over at David. He was standing frozen, staring at the baby in my arms. His face had gone pale. "David," I said, "do you want to hold him?" Yeah, sure. He took Ryan from me, cradling him awkwardly. David had never been great with babies. He was an only child, no nieces or nephews, but he looked down at Ryan with an expression I couldn't quite read. "Look, he's waking up," Julia said, her voice full of wonder. Ryan's eyes fluttered open, first one, then the other, and I saw it. His left eye was a perfect, clear, crystalline blue, the color of a summer sky, the same blue Julia and I had inherited from our dad. But his right eye was different, hazel, deep brown, with flecks of gold and green, absolutely, unmistakably different. Heterochromia. "Oh my God," I said, the words tumbling out before I could stop them. I laughed a short, surprised sound. "David, look, he has your eyes." The room went still. David had heterochromia, one blue eye, one brown. It was his thing, his trademark. The first thing I'd noticed about him 7 years ago, when we'd met at a mutual friend's birthday party. He'd been leaning against the bar, and when he turned to look at me, I'd actually gasped. It was striking, unique, beautiful. He used to joke about it. "Genetically superior," he'd say, winking with his blue eye. "1 in a million, baby." I'd seen pictures of him as a kid. He'd had it since birth. His mom told me it ran in their family. His grandfather had it too. "That's so wild," I continued, still staring at Ryan. "What are the odds? A baby with heterochromia? That's like super rare, right?" I looked at Greg. Brown eyes. Plain, normal brown eyes. Then at Julia. Blue eyes, like mine, like our dad's. I mean, the chances of this. I trailed off, laughing again. "This is insane. He has the exact same rare condition as my husband. That's like winning the lottery." Nobody was laughing with me. Julia's smile had frozen on her face. Her mouth still curved upward, but her eyes were terrified. Greg looked confused, his gaze moving from the baby to his wife, to David and back again. And David was staring at Ryan like he'd just watched someone die. His face was bone white. His hands were trembling. He thrust the baby back at Greg with a sudden jerky motion. "I need some air," David said, his voice barely above a whisper. "David," I said, "what's wrong?" He didn't answer. He just walked out of the room. The silence that followed was crushing. I looked at Julia. She was crying now, silent tears streaming down her face. Greg was looking at her with growing alarm. "Julia?" Greg said. "Honey, what's wrong? Are you okay? Is it the hormones?" "I'm fine," she choked out. "I'm fine." just overwhelmed. It's been a long day, but she wasn't looking at her husband. She was looking at the door where David had disappeared. And in that moment, standing in that hospital room full of flowers and balloons and the smell of new life, I felt the first cold finger of dread trace down my spine. Something was very, very wrong. I found David in the parking garage, leaning against our car, his head in his hands. David, I approached him carefully like he might bolt. What happened in there? Are you okay? He looked up at me, and I was shocked to see tears in his eyes. David never cried. In 7 years together, I'd seen him cry exactly twice when his mom died, and at our wedding. I'm fine, he said, wiping his face roughly. I felt lightheaded, too hot in there. You looked like you'd seen a ghost. I'm fine, Anna. Can we just go home? The drive from the hospital to our apartment in Riverside took 20 minutes. It felt like 20 hours. David stared out the passenger window, his jaw clenched so tight I could see the muscle jumping in his cheek. His hands were fisted in his lap. He looked like a man being driven to his own execution. I tried to make sense of it, tried to find a rational explanation. That was weird, right? I finally said, unable to stand the silence anymore. The baby? Having your eyes? I mean, what are the actual odds of that? It's a coincidence, David said flatly. Heterochromia isn't as rare as people think. It happens. It's genetic, but it's Greg's baby, and Greg doesn't have it. You don't share genetics with Greg. It can skip generations. It can come from anywhere in the family tree. Julia's side, Greg's side. It doesn't matter. But, drop it, Anna. His voice was sharp, angry. Just drop it. It's a genetic fluke. That's all. I dropped it, but I couldn't stop thinking about it. The image of those mismatched eyes staring up from that tiny face. The look on David's face. The way Julia had started crying. The way David had said, it's a coincidence. Not, wow, that's crazy. Not, what a wild coincidence. Just a flat, defensive statement. Like he was trying to convince himself as much as me. We got home to our apartment at 4:30 inches the afternoon. David went straight to the bathroom, shut the door, and locked it. I heard the shower turn on. I stood in our living room, my mind spinning. Something was off. Everything was off. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. How's the baby? Send pics. Is he adorable? Right. Pictures. I'd taken dozens in the hospital. I pulled out my phone to send one. Except the phone in my hand wasn't mine. The case was the same we'd bought matching black cases last month, but the lock screen was wrong. This was David's phone. We must have grabbed the wrong ones from the hospital room and all the chaos. I was about to put it down and go find my own phone when the screen lit up with a text notification from Julia. My heart did a strange little skip. Why would Julia be texting David? They barely knew each other. I mean, they were friendly, sure. She was my sister. He was my husband. But they didn't text. They had no reason to text. The notification preview showed just the first line. We need to talk about. I shouldn't have looked. I know that. Privacy, trust, all of that. But something in my gut, some primal instinct made my thumb move to the screen. The phone unlocked. David had never changed his passcode from the default I'd set when I'd given him this phone last Christmas. 0728, my birthday. The text thread with Julia was right there. The most recent message was from David, sent 20 minutes before we'd arrived at the hospital. Anna is coming with me. Delete everything. My blood went cold. I scrolled up and up and up. Julia, 9 months ago. This is insane. I can't do this. David, 9 months ago. You want a baby or not? Greg's tests came back. He's sterile. You know he is. Julia, 9 months ago. We'll do IVF. We'll use a sperm donor. There are options. David, 9 months ago. You're already doing IVF. This is just changing the donor. Me instead of some random guy. Someone you actually know. Someone with good genetics. Julia, 9 months ago. You're my sister's husband. David, 9 months ago. And you're my wife's sister. This stays between us. Greg never has to know. Anna never has to know. It's just biology. Just science. Julia, 9 months ago. What if the baby looks like you? David, 9 months ago. Babies look like everyone and no one. People see what they want to see. Julia, 9 months ago. What about your eyes? David, 9 months ago. It's a recessive trait. The kid probably won't get it. And even if they do, heterochromia isn't that rare. It's explainable. Julia, 9 months ago. I don't know. David, 9 months ago. You've been trying for 3 years, Julia. 3 years. How many more do you want to waste? Greg is shooting blanks. This is your only chance. There was a gap of a few days. Then, Julia, 8 months, 3 weeks ago. Okay, but this never happens again, and nobody ever knows. David, 8 months, 3 weeks ago. Nobody will ever know. I promise. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped the phone. I kept scrolling, nausea rising in my throat. There were logistics, clinical discussions, times, dates, her ovulation schedule, plans for how he'd get the sample to her without me knowing. David, 8 months, 2 weeks ago. Anna's going to her conference in Denver next weekend. That's your window. Julia, 8 months, 2 weeks ago. This feels so wrong. David, 8 months, 2 weeks ago. You'll feel different when you're holding your baby. And then, weeks later, Julia, 7 months ago. I'm late. David, 7 months ago. Test, Julia, 7 months ago. 2 lines. Oh my God, it worked. David, 7 months ago. Congratulations. You're going to be a great mom. Julia, 7 months ago. We can never speak of this again. David, 7 months ago. Agreed. As far as anyone knows, the IVF worked. End of story. But it wasn't the end. There were more messages. Throughout her pregnancy, check-ins, him asking how she was feeling, her sending him updates, ultrasound pictures, not the ones she posted on Facebook or sent to the family, different ones, private ones, just for him. Julia, 4 months ago. It's a boy. David, 4 months ago. I know. Julia, 4 months ago. How do you know? David, 4 months ago. You posted it on Instagram. Julia, 4 months ago. Right. Of course. There was something else too. Something worse. A thread from 2 months ago. Julia, 2 months ago. I can't stop thinking about what we did. David, 2 months ago. Don't think about it. What's done is done. Julia, 2 months ago. I feel like I'm lying to everyone. To Greg, to Anna, to everyone. David, 2 months ago. You're not lying. You're protecting them. Sometimes love means keeping secrets. Julia, 2 months ago. Is that what you tell yourself? David, 2 months ago. It's what I know. Greg gets to be a father. You get to be a mother. Anna gets to be an aunt. Everyone wins. Julia, 2 months ago. Except everyone is living a lie. David, 2 months ago. Only we know that, and we'll take it to our graves. I was going to be sick. I ran to the kitchen sink and dry heaved, my body trying to expel a poison that was in my mind, not my stomach. The shower was still running in the bathroom. David was still in there, probably scrubbing himself raw, trying to wash away what he'd done. What they'd both done. My sister, my older sister. The woman who'd taught me how to ride a bike in French, braid my hair, and apply for college. The woman who'd been my maid of honor at my wedding, who'd given a speech about how happy she was that I'd found my person, how David was perfect for me. She'd been sleeping with my husband. No, not sleeping with. That almost would have been better. More honest. This was calculated, premeditated, clinical. He'd fathered her baby. The baby I'd just held in my arms. The baby I'd cooed at and called my nephew. That baby wasn't my nephew. Not really. He was my husband's son. My sister's son. My, stepson? Half-nephew? The bathroom door opened. Steam billowed out. David emerged in his bathrobe. His hair wet. His face scrubbed pink. Anna, he said, seeing me standing there. What's wrong? Are you okay? I just held up his phone. My hand was shaking so badly the screen blurred. You were right, I whispered. The tears were coming now, hot and fast and furious. The odds weren't high at all. David's face went through several expressions in rapid succession. Confusion, recognition, terror, and finally, resignation. Anna, he started. Don't. My voice came out as a hiss. Don't you dare say my name right now. I can explain. Explain what? Explain how you fucked my sister. Explain how you gave her a baby. Explain how you both lied to me for 9 months. I was screaming now. I didn't care. Let the neighbors hear. Let the whole building hear. I didn't. We didn't. It wasn't like that, David stammered, his hands raised like I might hit him. Maybe I would. Maybe I should. Then what was it like, David? Enlighten me. He sank onto the couch, his head in his hands. She needed help. She needed help, I repeated, my voice flat. So you decided to impregnate her. It was artificial. It was clinical. I never touched her, Anna. I swear to God, I never touched her. Oh, well, that makes it so much better. You just jerked off into a cup and gave her your sperm. Totally fine. Completely normal. Why didn't you mention it? Because I knew you'd react like this. Like what? I screamed. Like someone who just found out her husband fathered her sister's baby? Yeah, David, that's exactly how I'm reacting. Because that's what fucking happened. Greg is sterile, David said, his voice quieter now. They did tests. His sperm count is 0. They were going to use an anonymous donor. Julia was devastated. She wanted a baby that had some genetic connection to her family. So you volunteered? She asked me. The room tilted. She asked you? She came to me about 10 months ago. She was desperate, Anna. You remember what she was like. You saw her. She was falling apart. I did remember. Last winter, Julia had been in a dark place. The 4th failed IVF cycle. The test results showing Greg's fertility was virtually 0. The realization that if they wanted a biological child, they'd have to use donor sperm. She'd cried on my couch for 3 hours one night, saying she felt like a failure, saying she didn't want to use some random stranger's sperm, saying she wanted her child to be connected to our family somehow. I'd comforted her. I'd told her that love made a family, not genetics. That donor sperm was a beautiful gift, that she'd be an amazing mom no matter what. And apparently, while I was being a supportive sister, she was asking my husband to be her sperm donor. Why didn't you tell me? I asked, my voice cracked. Because, David looked up at me, and his eyes were wet. Because I knew you'd say no, and she needed help. She needed this, Anna. So, you went behind my back. Yes. You both went behind my back. Yes. For 9 months. You both looked me in the eye and lied to me for 9 months. We were protecting you. Protecting me? I grabbed a vase from the side table and hurled it across the room. It shattered against the wall in a burst of glass and water and flowers. You were protecting yourself yourselves. You were covering your asses because you knew what you did was fucked up. David flinched. Anna, please. That baby has your eyes, David. Your eyes. The one thing about you that's unique. The one thing that's unmistakable. And you're telling me you didn't think anyone would notice? Heterochromia is rare, but it happens. Stop it. Stop lying. It's over. I saw the texts. I saw you telling her that the baby probably wouldn't get your eyes, and that even if he did, you'd just explain it away. You gambled. You gambled that your son wouldn't look like you, and you lost. He's not my son. He's Julia and Greg's son. He has your DNA. He has your eyes. He has your genetics. That makes him your son. David stood up, his hands trembling. In the eyes of the law, in every way that matters, he's Greg's son. Greg's name is on the birth certificate. Greg was in the room when he was born. Greg will raise him. I'm just the donor. You're the father. I'm the biological father, that's all. I laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. Do you hear yourself? Do you hear how insane that sounds? Families are complicated, Anna. This isn't the 1,950 seconds. Lots of kids are born through IVF, through donors, through surrogates. This is just another version of that. Another version where you lied to your wife and fucked her sister. I told you. I never touched her. And created a secret baby that I'm supposed to, what? Be fine with? Play aunt to? Watch? Grow up knowing that he's yours? David was crying now, real tears streaming down his face. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Anna. I never wanted to hurt you. I was just trying to help. Help, I repeated. You helped create a child that's going to grow up surrounded by lies. What happens when he's older and wants to know why he has weird eyes? What happens if he does one of those DNA tests and finds out Greg isn't his biological father? What happens when this all comes out? Because it will come out, David. Secrets like this always come out. It won't come out. We'll make sure. You can't make sure of anything, I screamed. You can't control this. You can't control genetics. You can't control what that baby grows up looking like. He has your eyes. Now, David. At 1 day old, he has your eyes. What else is he gonna have? Your nose? Your smile? Your goddamn laugh? David just stood there, broken and crying, and I realized something. I didn't love him anymore. Maybe I had an hour ago. Maybe I'd loved him this morning when we'd driven to the hospital together, excited to meet our nephew. Maybe I'd loved him yesterday, last week, last month, but I didn't love him now. The man I loved wouldn't have done this. The man I loved would have told me the truth. The man I loved would have respected our marriage enough to include me in a decision this massive. This man, this stranger crying in my living room, wasn't my husband. I didn't know who he was. Get out, I said quietly. Anna, get out of my apartment now. This is my apartment too. I don't care. Get out or I'm calling the police. And telling them what? That I legally donated sperm to someone? He had a point. What he'd done wasn't illegal. Immoral, sure. A betrayal, absolutely. But not illegal. Fine, I said. Then I'll leave. I grabbed my purse, my real phone, and my keys. I walked out the door and down the hallway, my legs moving on autopilot. Behind me, I heard David call my name one more time. I didn't look back. I drove. I didn't know where I was going. I just drove. My phone rang 6 times. David, I didn't answer. It rang a 7th time. Julia, I answered. Anna, she started. Did you really think I wouldn't find out? I asked. Silence. Did you really think that baby wouldn't look like him? That nobody would notice? Anna, please, let me explain. There's nothing to explain. You fucked my husband. I didn't, Anna. We never. It was just. And you got pregnant with his baby, and you both lied to me. That's it. That's the whole story. I was desperate, Julia whispered. I wanted a baby so badly. And Greg couldn't. He can't. And I thought if I used someone from our family, someone we knew, someone good. So you chose my husband. I chose someone with good genes. Someone smart and healthy and someone who already belonged to me. Julia was crying now. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I never wanted to hurt you. I just wanted a baby. I just wanted what everyone else has. At what cost? I asked. At the cost of our relationship? At the cost of my marriage? At the cost of that baby growing up in a lie? Nobody has to know, Julia said desperately. It can stay between us. Greg doesn't have to know. Your parents don't have to know. We can just move forward. Move forward, I repeated numbly. You want me to just pretend this didn't happen? Yes, for Ryan's sake, for Greg's sake, for all of us. You're insane. I'm a mother, Julia said, her voice hardening. I'm protecting my son. That's what mothers do. He's not just your son. He's David's son, too. No, he's mine and Greg's. David was just a donor, a means to an end. He's not the father in any way that matters. Tell that to the baby's eyes. There was a long pause. I'm not going to let you ruin this, Julia said finally. I'm not going to let you take this away from me. I fought too hard for this baby. I've been through too much. I'm not trying to take anything away from you. I'm just trying to process the fact that my sister and my husband betrayed me. We didn't betray you. We made a choice that didn't involve you because it wasn't about you. My fertility issues aren't about you. My marriage isn't about you. My baby isn't about you. The words hit me like a slap. Wow, I said softly. Wow, Julia. I'm sorry. I didn't mean. No, I think you did. I think that's exactly what you meant. This was all about you, your wants, your needs, your baby, and fuck everyone else who gets hurt in the process. Anna. I hung up. My phone immediately started ringing again. I turned it off. I ended up at a coffee shop in a neighborhood I didn't recognize. I sat in a corner booth with a cup of tea I didn't drink and tried to figure out what to do. My options were limited. Go back home and pretend this never happened. Stay married to David. Be Aunt Anna to a baby who was genetically my nephew and my stepson. Divorce David. Cut off Julia. Lose my whole family in one fell swoop. Tell Greg the truth. Blow up everyone's lives. Let the chips fall where they may. None of them were good options. Option 1 meant living a lie for the rest of my life. Watching that baby grow up. Watching him develop David's mannerisms, David's intelligence, David's quirks, and pretending I didn't see it. Going to family holidays and watching David and Julia avoid each other's eyes, knowing that my marriage was built on a foundation of lies. Option 2 meant losing everyone. David, obviously, but also Julia, and probably my parents, who would want to know why I wasn't speaking to my sister anymore. And definitely Ryan, who would grow up not knowing me. I'd be the aunt who disappeared, the cautionary tale. Option 3 meant destruction. Greg would be devastated. He'd probably divorce Julia. My parents would be horrified. That baby would grow up knowing his life began with a massive lie. And I'd be the one who lit the match that burned it all down. I sat there for 3 hours, my tea growing cold, my phone staying off, and then I made a decision. I went to Julia and Greg's house the next morning. Greg answered the door, bleary-eyed and exhausted, but glowing with new dad energy. Anna, he said, surprised. I didn't know you were coming over. Julia and Ryan are sleeping. I need to talk to you, I said. It's important. Something in my voice made him pause. Okay, come in. We sat in their living room, surrounded by baby gifts and flowers and congratulations cards. The house smelled like coffee and diapers and the specific exhaustion of new parents. Greg, I said, my hands folded in my lap, I need to tell you something, and I need you to listen to the whole thing before you react. He frowned. Anna, you're scaring me. Good. You should be scared, because what I'm about to tell you is going to change your life. And I told him everything. The texts, the plan, the deception, the baby's eyes, all of it. I watched his face go through the same journey mine had. Confusion, disbelief, horror, rage, and finally, a kind of broken devastation that made me want to cry. When I finished, we sat in silence for a long moment. Then Greg stood up, walked to the hallway, and threw up in the bathroom. I heard Julia's voice from upstairs. Greg, are you okay? He came back to the living room, wiping his mouth, his eyes wild. I'm calling a lawyer, he said. Greg, I'm calling a fucking lawyer, and I'm getting a divorce, and I'm getting a paternity test, and that baby needs you, I said. Ryan needs you. You're his dad, in every way that matters. Except biologically. Biology doesn't make you a father. Love does. Being there does. You were in that delivery room. You cut the cord. You're the one whose name is on the birth certificate. Built on a lie, Greg shouted. Everything is built on a lie. My wife cheated on me. She didn't cheat. It was clinical. David was just a donor. He's your husband, Anna. And she went behind both of our backs. She went behind your back. She went behind my back. And now I'm supposed to what? Raise another man's child? Raise your husband's child? You're raising your son, I said firmly. Your son. Who you wanted. Who you tried for. Who you fought for. Greg sank back onto the couch, his head in his hands. I don't know if I can do this. I know. We sat there for a while. Two people whose lives had been blown apart by the same bomb. What are you going to do? Greg finally asked. I'm getting a divorce. From David? Who else? What about Julia? I thought about my sister. My big sister. The woman who taught me everything. The woman who'd been my best friend for 30 years. The woman who'd stabbed me in the back. I don't know, I said honestly. I don't know if I can forgive her. I don't know if I want to. You should stay away from her, Greg said bitterly. She's poison. She's a liar. She'll do anything to get what she wants. She's also Ryan's mother. Ryan, Greg repeated, his voice breaking. God, I love that kid. I love him so much already, and I don't even know if he's really mine. He's really yours. Legal adoption, sperm donors, genetics, none of that matters. You're his dad. Don't let David take that from you. Greg looked at me, his eyes red. Thank you for telling me. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry this happened. It's not your fault, but it felt like my fault. It felt like I should have seen it coming, should have noticed something, should have protected him. I left him there, sitting in his living room, surrounded by the wreckage of his life, and I went home to deal with the wreckage of mine. The divorce was finalized 3 months after that day. David fought it at first. He sent flowers, emails, texts. He showed up at my new apartment. I'd moved out immediately, with apologies and promises. He swore he'd never lied to me about anything else. He swore it was a one-time thing. He swore he loved me. I didn't care. Our marriage was over the moment I saw those texts. You can't rebuild trust after something like that. You can't come back from that level of betrayal. Greg divorced Julia too. That one was messier. There was a custody battle. Greg wanted full custody of Ryan, arguing that Julia's deception proved she was unfit. Julia countered that Greg was being vindictive and that Ryan needed his mother. The judge awarded them joint custody, 50-50. Greg Greg's name stayed on the birth certificate as the legal father. David's name appeared nowhere on any legal documents. But biology doesn't care about legal documents. Ryan is 6 months old now, and he looks more like David every day. He has David's eye color, obviously, but he also has David's nose, David's chin, David's smile. Everyone sees it. My parents see it. Greg's family sees it. Everyone who knows David and sees Ryan does a double take. Julia and I don't speak. She tried. In the beginning, she called, texted, showed up at my door. She apologized. She cried. She begged me to understand. I told her I did understand. I understood that she wanted something so badly that she was willing to destroy everything to get it. I understood that her desperation overrode her morality. I understood that she'd prioritized her desire for a baby over her relationship with her sister. Understanding doesn't equal forgiveness. My parents tried to mediate. They're devastated that their daughters aren't speaking. They don't know the whole story, Julia told them, that David donated sperm and I'm overreacting. They think I'm being unreasonable, cold, unforgiving. Maybe I am. But every time I think about forgiving her, I picture that moment in the hospital. That moment when I held Ryan and noticed his eyes and laughed about the coincidence. I picture her face, that frozen smile, that terror in her eyes. I picture David going pale. They knew. They both knew exactly what was happening. And they were hoping I wouldn't notice. That's not the kind of betrayal you forgive. That's the kind you walk away from. I haven't seen Ryan since that first day. I don't plan to. It's not his fault. He's an innocent baby. But I can't look at him without seeing them. The betrayal, the lies, the destruction. Greg sends me updates sometimes. Pictures, little milestones. He rolled over today. First tooth, starting to babble. I appreciate them, but I don't respond. That baby deserves a happy life. He deserves a dad who loves him, and Greg does fiercely, despite everything. He deserves a mom who's present, and Julia is, from what I hear, he doesn't deserve to be in the middle of this mess. David tried to see him once, showed up at one of the custody exchanges. Greg told him to leave, or he'd call the police. David called me that night, drunk, crying. He's my son, he kept saying. I just wanted to see my son. He's not your son, I said. You made your choice. You chose to be the donor, not the dad. Live with it. He hung up. I heard through mutual friends that he moved to Seattle a few weeks ago. A fresh start, apparently. Away from the reminders. Away from the guilt. I didn't move. I stayed in our city, in my new apartment, in my new life. I'm not happy, but I'm healing. I started therapy. I joined a divorce support group. I focused on my work, my friends, my own future. People ask me sometimes if I regret telling Greg the truth. If I think I should have just kept quiet. Let sleeping dogs lie. Protected the family. He don't regret it. Greg deserved to know. That baby deserved to be raised by a man who knew the full truth and chose to be his father anyway. And I deserve to not live a lie. Some secrets are meant to be kept. Some lies are protective. But this wasn't one of them. This was a bomb that was always going to go off. Better it exploded when Ryan was 1 day old than when he was 5 or 10 or 15. Better the adults deal with the fallout than force a child to. I think about Ryan sometimes. I wonder what kind of person he'll grow up to be. I wonder if he'll have David's intelligence, David's sense of humor, David's talent for deception. I wonder if anyone will ever tell him the truth. Probably not. That's the kind of secret that families take to the grave. But secrets have a way of coming out. DNA tests are getting more popular. People get curious. They want to know where they come from. Someday, Ryan might submit his DNA to one of those genealogy websites. And someday, he might get a notification that he has a genetic match. A biological father who isn't the man he calls dad. And when that day comes, this whole house of cards is going to collapse again. But that's not my problem anymore. I did what I had to do. I told the truth. I walked away from the lies. And now I'm building a new life. One without betrayal, without deception, without wondering if the people I love are lying to me. It's lonely sometimes, but it's honest. And after everything, honesty is the only thing I have left.